one. He is a Battle Bob veteran. He's back for another one.
What's up, Sammy? Yeah, go!
Please make some noise.
Everybody say SMC! SMC! Say SMC!
If I could rewrite history, I'm taking some years back. I'm walking out that house, but I'm leaving the door cracked.
For those that don't know me, my name is Blind One, and I represent SMC Records. SMC Records is a crew/company that me and my brother started years ago. SMC stands for Serra Mesa Crew. Serra Mesa was a neighborhood in San Diego, California, where I grew up. And in order to tell my musical story, I have to take y'all way back to before I was born. My mom and my dad would go dancing in the disco era, all the way up until my mom was about 8 months pregnant with me. Doctor said that, you know, it's safe to go dancing, but he's going to be hearing all that music that's going on. And it has greatly affected me over the years. When I was old enough to know what music was, I started to play music on my dad's turntable. When I was born, my parents' coworkers bought me a shirt that said Disco Baby on it. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for introducing me to music before I could even breathe oxygen. My love for music and my infatuation with turntables has never gone away. And it has definitely formed the life that I live now. In this 10-part mini documentary, I'm going to cover some points that I think are very important in my musical story/journey. So stay with me, all right?
I switched the routine, disappeared from the scene. I'm squeezing my green, fresh from the car wash, clean. I'm an ethanol fiend, had to tune the machine.
I got a little older. I had a cassette tape radio, and we would push record and play, and be able to record the radio. So I started to make these little mixtapes of my favorite songs on the radio. That escalated into me finding out that the cassette player had a microphone on it, a very small dot that said mic. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but if I'd push record on an empty cassette, I could record my voice. So I started to record like little fake radio shows. That turned into making little tapes, and I actually got a microphone from one of my dad's coworkers. It was a cheap little mic, but it plugged into the aux cord on this stereo cassette player, and I was able to record even better, like little fake radio shows and whatnot. And on the rainy days, you know, I'd just be inside recording whatever I wanted to. I remember sometimes we would actually record with putting two cassette players together, speaker to speaker, and record back and forth like that. Not really sure why we did that, but it was just something that sticks out in my memory that I did. It also led into me making loops. It's called pause tape, or making pause tapes is what it's called now, but I didn't know anything of that back then. What I would do is I would have a loop of something, and then I would push record on, when I got a dual cassette player, I would push record on one tape to another, and when I found the loop I wanted, I would push play and record, and then I would pause it, and then I would rewind that loop, and until I got like a minute and a half of a beat, and that's where I started. Now, none of it was good, and even if you screwed up once, you had to start all over. So I started recording and being infatuated with recording at a very young age. And yeah, that stuck with me all these years later. I still feel the same way I did when I could figure out that if I pushed record and play, that I could record and hear my voice. And that crazy feeling just never left me. It's still the same to this day.
I'm flipping through the pictures that I'm framed in, asking, why do it appear that I'm all full of hope? There's no need to be mixing all of the pills in, I'm aspirin.
One major point that sticks out to me is I used to go on field trips with my aunt's class. My aunt was a kindergarten teacher for 30 years. But there was a few years there that she taught fourth grade. She would go on field trips with her class and I would go with her. I was very young. I don't know if I was even in kindergarten yet. But these fourth graders might as well have been 30 years old. They were so much older than me. And a lot of them would talk about the music they were listening to. And the groups that would come up at the time were Run DMC and the Beastie Boys. It just got me so curious about what this was, who these guys were, what hip hop was. And every second I could, I was listening, sneaking away and trying to hear, what is this? What is this music? I fell in love with hip hop as soon as I heard it. And those two, there's many more, but those two crews, Run DMC and Beastie Boys, not only were they pioneers, they were the very beginning to my hip hop lifestyle. In 5th or 6th grade, I started a crew with a couple of dancers, some girlfriends that I had, and a couple of my classmates. And we started writing rhymes, and I started making little beats out of instrumentals or loop tapes and whatnot. We had a friend of ours that had, one of his uncles or dads had this makeshift garage studio, just carpet on the walls, double drywall, stuff like that. And we'd go in there and we'd bring our boom boxes and we would make tapes. One of the biggest things I remember is recording over the Humpty Dance instrumental. And I would record from tape to tape to get the instrumental at the same time that I would start busting out my rhymes, you know. Now it sounded horrible, but to me, it was the greatest thing in the world that I had ever done. I had a lot of older friends. They would help me out. Not really writing my rhymes, but giving me ideas. And I would go through cadences and rhyme flows. I remember Too Short being a big influence on me. Telling my mom one time, hey, I'm going to rhyme like Too Short. And thank God my mom didn't know who Too Short was at the time. She probably would have slapped me.
Handwritten, dial spitting in Hell's Kitchen. I'm on a man mission, projecting a grand vision. To man driven, seeking to be forgiven.
Moving out of grade school and getting into junior high, middle school, the actual physically making music, writing rhymes, that part of it kind of slowed down for me. Started getting into dancing like heavy. And at this time, you know, there was, trendy dances, just like we have nowadays. You know, back then we had little trendy dances as well. If anybody out there remembers, the Running Man, the Roger Rabbit, you know, the Kid and Play, you know, all kinds of different dances. And I got heavily into dancing. And, I wanted to start breakdancing as well. I started to learn how to break dance from dudes around the neighborhood, dudes I went to school with. And that kind of took over my life for many, 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 many years. And, you know, became a big part of me that kind of took over me actually making music was, you know what? I'm going to dance. At that age, I thought I'll just be a dancer. You know what I mean? It'd be a lot easier, right? And of course it was fun and I was way into it. Moving into high school, I met a couple of dudes that were dancers as well. And, you know, one of them I'm still homies with to today. What's up, Ian? We started dancing together. We eventually got into meeting dudes from other schools and ended up making our own crew. At this point, breakdancing was the biggest thing in my life. Even the people I was closest to, I never really shared how much I wanted to make music, how much I wanted to learn how to make beats, learn how to DJ, learn how to write rhymes better, learn how to record, with professional equipment. This never, ever, ever left my brain. It was always there. It's not that I was embarrassed to tell anybody. It's just I had absolutely no clue how to get started. of course, I knew the essentials, you know, like, well, need a place to record, need somebody to make beats. I just, at this time in my life, anybody that I knew that was into hip hop was a breaker, you know, a dancer. I don't even remember actually knowing a DJ at this point in time. You know, I still followed hip hop as closely as I ever could. I mean, I was completely wrapped up in hip hop, just like I was younger. It was just getting worse as I was getting older. I started collecting, you know, every XXL Source magazine, any magazine I could on hip hop, I would collect and read it cover to cover. I wanted to know everything that was going on. What artists, you know, what the hip hop quotable was, how many mics did this album get in the Source. You know, there wasn't an album that I didn't open the booklet and read through it and look at the producers, and you know, it was a love that I never got over as a kid. It just kept going and going and going. You know?
So this is rock bottom, been there a couple times. Yeah, had a problem, hence all the struggle rhymes. Took that loss, I wasn't that compassionate.
So after I graduated high school, me and my little brother, we decided that we were going to start making music together. Now, we didn't really know how we were going to do this at the time, but the intent was there. Look, this is what we're going to do. We ended up meeting the homie down the street. His name is Agile. He's an SMC member and my brother's friend. I met him. We started kicking it at his pad. We started writing rhymes together, and we would, you know, put an instrumental on or just, you know, whatever, a beat, a song, didn't really matter, and we would write to it. And then the only thing we had was this camcorder, this old school camcorder. And we started filming each other, you know, writing rhymes, spit it, film it. You know, we weren't making videos. We were just, it was the only thing that we had that we could record audio with, just so we could hear our voices. Now, it sounded like crap, but, you know, it was dope to hear each other's voices. And, you know, SMC was born. SMC Records started right there in the homie's bedroom, you know. Me and my brother eventually started making it a mission, you know, like, look, we got to find, you know, some beats, some instrumentals, something like that, you know. So I ended up buying some turntables. We ended up buying some microphones, a mixer, and we had set up a little makeshift studio in my parents' house. Now we could, you know, mess around, learn how to DJ, mess around and rap over instrumentals on the other side of records and stuff like this. We still didn't have anything to physically record music yet, but we were getting the hang of putting an instrumental on, writing a rhyme to it, spitting it on the microphone. You know, this was all a learning process. A major thing that happened to us in the beginning was we ended up befriending a DJ and his brother. DJ AM, not the famous DJ AM, but this guy's name was also DJ AM, and his brother Seams. They had a couple of turntables, mixer, sampler, and then his brother Seams had a computer with a sound card in it that could record. We ended up meeting them through a mutual friend of ours. So one night we went over there and we were getting drunk, and he said, hey, did you guys bring any rhymes with you? We were like, yeah, man, we got our rhyme books in the car. He's like, I'll loop you up some beats and my brother can record it, man. I'm like, yo, let's do this. So we ran to the car, grabbed our rhyme books. He looped up 3, 4, 5 beats, something like that. I can't remember. And we started busting these rhymes off that we thought would fit the beats. Now, at the end of it, they burnt us a CD. Now, the quality was horrible, but, you know, we were just sitting in a living room with a bunch of people. And we were so excited that we had a CD that we'd actually play in the car and hear each other rhyme, you know. So me and my brother were overexcited, man. It was nuts. We ended up calling it the Drunken Demo. And some people started bootlegging it and kind of passing it around our hood. And that was really dope. So we had started buying some equipment. Me and my brother actually wanted to go and get the same sound card that Seams had. So we went over to Fry's or some place like that, and we bought this thing, and I remember the name was Sound Blaster. And we were just thinking, hey, we'll install it in our parents' computer. Now, we never got around to installing this sound card. we moved on to bigger and better things when it comes to recording. But that name, Sound Blaster, I do remember that. Never got to use it, but thank God.
As I touch the cross, blood seeps from my eyes. Has my faith been lost? Rain pours from the sky, stains the altar cloth. Wine spills all the lies, hell to pays the cost.
So how the recording equipment came into our lives was we started to go to these pro audio places. At the time, it wasn't Guitar Center. There was Guitar Center, but we didn't really know about it at that point. We started going to other small places. And there was a dude there that started showing us, you know, beat machines, turntables, you know, this and that, kind of going over. And right there, when we saw that beat machine, all those years of trying to figure out how beats are made, how do these guys do it? Do they do it off of sampling records or doing it instrumentals or live music mixed with the turntables? We didn't know anything at this point. But once that beat machine came into our view and the dude started pushing buttons on it and it started making sound out of it, everything clicked to me. It was like everything I had ever wanted to know, bam, all of a sudden made this perfect path. And I was like, oh man, that's how this works. So we got a beat machine, we got a sampler, had a couple of turntables already. Now we needed to figure out how to record all this. Well, same dude that had showed us the beat machine, some months later, we started wondering how we get this recorded. So we started staying in the Roland family. We had a Roland beat machine. We never really messed with MPC until later. My brother had an MPC. I've always had Roland beat machines. So we stuck with that company. So Boss is made by Roland and vice versa. So there was this machine called the Boss BR1180, made by Roland, made by Boss. This was a hard disk recorder that had 8 tracks, a CD burner, and built-in effects. And we were like, whoa, you know, you plug all your mics into this, you plug your beat machine into this, and this is how you make a CD. We're like, oh, okay. So at the same time we're looking at that, we started saving up money to buy this thing. We went to another place to, I think I was buying this coffin for the turntables, and there was also some pro audio gear here. So I started asking the dude there, I said, hey, do you guys have a machine called the BR1180? He's like, yeah, we have some hard disk recorders, but what are you trying to do? And I explained to him what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. He's all, have you ever heard of Pro Tools? I said, no, what's that? He's like, come here. So he brought me over to his desk. He's got an old Apple computer on there, and he fired up Pro Tools in front of me, and he was like, this is a virtual mixer, and it got 32 tracks, all the effects, this and that. Started playing me some stuff on here, and my mind was blown, dude. I was like, what? This is the future, right? This is the future? We didn't even have a computer at this time. So we asked the dude, hey man, how do you get this going? You know, he's like, look, you go out there, you buy yourself an Apple, a Mac, you buy this, you know, M-Box, comes with the software. I think it was like $500, $600, something like that. I didn't even have a computer. I bought the software in the M-Box and walked out. We stared at that box for months because we were saving up to get a computer. But once we had saved up and we got this Apple eMac, installed the software and all that, we were off to the races, man. It was tough because we didn't know anything. We didn't know what we were doing. But all these songs and all these beats that we had come up with and made, it was starting to go towards, man, we're actually going to record this stuff. And yeah, that was the journey on how we got to Pro Tools, you know.
Bringing off like 9 shots, I took more than 9 shots. Emptied the cash box, maintaining the sweet spot. Driving like Cyclops, I rolled through the gearbox.
So now that me and my bro have some recording equipment, we decided to move out of our parents' house, and we got a 1-bedroom apartment in North Park off of University. The back bedroom had a walk-in closet, very small. We gutted that and made it a mic booth. You know, we lined it with acoustic, and at the time we had a really nice Shure condenser mic, Mic, cable. We even made a door with a small window on the mic booth. We try to do this as professional as possible. So we had already had beats and a lot of lyrics written. So now was the learning curve of actually recording this. So we already had a name for the album. For quite a while, we had a lot of the names of the songs already, and we were going to call it The Composition, just like The Notebook. So our first album was called The Composition. We had a homie do the artwork for it and everything. It took about 9 months of recording. Then we ended up getting it mastered at Trackstar Studios. That was cool because, remember everything is just a big learning curve, like we're doing things this way and we're learning how to do it this way, and then trial and error, and that sounds good, this doesn't. So by the end of the 9-month period, we had recorded the entire album, got it mastered, got the artwork done, got it pressed, all these things that you would have a record label do for you. We were doing it all by ourselves, all funded by us. It was like zero help besides the, it takes a village, like to raise a child, they say. But, this was a group effort when it came to us using anything that we could, meaning like one of my best homies, his little brother did the artwork, we paid him. Little things like that here and there, little favors, that we would pay X amount of dollars to do, we would get that. But, as far as buying the equipment, putting the work in, getting the albums pressed, that was all out of our pocket. The cool thing about our first recording, for the audio nerds out there, is that we did not have MIDI working on Pro Tools yet. We really didn't know how that whole thing works. Later on, we got a USB box that you could plug MIDI cables into, and then you could slave the Beat Machine to Pro Tools. You hit spacebar on the Pro Tools, it turned the Beat Machine on. That was a little later. It was actually the last song on the record, called Real Hip Hop, was actually the only song on the record, or on the album, that was synced. So every single beat that we would do, we would watch the beat counter on the Beat Machine, and we would push play, and then we would record that track, drums or whatever, and then the next instrument, bass, or the next instrument, and we would sit there and hit spacebar, and if it was off, start over. So we did that over and over and over for God knows how many songs, and it sounds crazy and it sounds primitive, but you got to remember, when two guys are learning something and they have no idea, and we don't have any help, and the internet was around, but we didn't really know how to, it wasn't like it is today. We could not YouTube this back then, so this was trial and error. But that kind of shows to the raw talent that me and my brother had, is that we had such a good ear that we could actually match up these beats. And that probably comes, from a little bit of natural talent, but also comes from, DJing and matching records and stuff like that. That helps on the beat matching and stuff. So that is really cool. And we're, really, really proud of doing that the stupid and hard way, So we are living in the North Park pad still, and we have all the CDs pressed up. We have been going to venues around town, spectating, enjoying shows, underground shows, stuff like that, looking for a spot to start doing some shows and promoting the album. There was it's called the Till 2 Club now, but back then it was called Club Recognize. And on Wednesday nights, it was called House of Rep, like rep your set. And that was a couple of dudes that we were, kind of friends with from, we were starting to go to Guitar Center at this time, and, starting to meet other producers and DJs and MCs, stuff like that. The actual master of ceremonies, the guy that ran and, I guess you could call him the promoter, Sergio, I believe his name was, really cool cat. We kind of went there a couple nights and we met the dude and said, hey, you know, how much and this and that, do we get paid, do we not? But yeah, you know, we are going to get a percentage of the door and the bar and this and that. And we asked how many minutes. I think the first set we did was 30 minutes. So we had to figure out, well, we better start rehearsing, you know. So all right, time to spend more money, right? So we go back to the original Pro Audio place that we had bought all our equipment from, and we bought some Yamaha 15-inch monitors. We bought a Rode case, a mixer. We bought two Shure 58 Beta wireless mics. You know, like we wanted to not only sound good, but we wanted to look professional, and dragging the mic cord around on stage and using the mic, the house mic that everybody else uses. You know, we just weren't about that. We wanted to show everybody that A, we knew what we were doing, and B, we wanted to sound good and look good. You know, you got to look the part and you have to prove with the performance. So a lot went into the rehearsal. We rehearsed so much that that first show that we had was one of our best shows. Now that sounds crazy if you think about what the first show you ever did is one of the best shows. Absolutely. We were so freaking polished, and we had so many friends and family there, and it was amazing. Like, that show was so dope. We ended up doing a couple of shows at that same venue later on, and every show was just great. But that first show, because yeah, you know, me and my brother both have breakdanced in front of people and stuff like that. So it's not like we were shy about being on stage or scared, you know, but there's always that bubble guts before you go on stage. But it came really natural. You know, I'd always been a dumbass and you know, performing in front of my family and friends as a little kid, and I just really never stopped. So being on stage came pretty natural. A lot of our friends that were there, they were there to support, but they were amazed at the end of the show, because I remember this vividly. They said, man, you know what? We thought that you guys were just going to go up there, spit a couple rhymes on some beats, come back down and have a beer. And that's pretty much what 75% of this place was. It was kind of like open mic, you know, like it wasn't that crazy, but we had it planned out. Everybody in the crowd had shirts. Everybody in the crowd had some type of merch that we had made. And what I mean made is that we actually like had graffiti artists, friends of ours, make templates, and we actually spray painted our own shirts, women shirts, male shirts. We put a lot into this, you know, and back then, instead of having Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, you know, we actually printed out flyers, and we went to colleges and you name it, you know, parking lots, and we'd hand out these flyers for these shows. So a lot of people showed up, you know, everybody that I was friends with, acquaintances with, or just knew from the bank, they came to that show. It was a hell of a good time. And like I was saying about a couple of homies of mine, they were amazed on what type of show we put on, because they were thinking about, they were just gonna, you know, they're just gonna go up there, spit a couple rhymes, ha ha, clap clap, sit down, have a beer. That was not the case. That show blew the hell up.
Confused with the meaning on my forehead, I'm leaning, I'm seasoned, trying to shake this god off a feeling, difficulty breathing, prepared for the cold winter season.
To everyone that's enjoying this video, hopefully you're enjoying this. I'm on the last few parts here. I'm going to start moving a little faster, trying to get through this. The beginning of my music life, my music journey, I wanted to detail and document that as much as possible, because I thought the beginning was the most interesting, to see how two kids from Serra Mesa, you know, with absolutely no musical background, figured out how not only to record, but to engineer, to write music, to distribute it, to press it. You know, we basically made our own label, and we are 100% entirely self-taught. So I wanted to make sure to get all the details of the beginning of this journey in the beginning of the documentary. On the later parts right now, I'm gonna move a little faster so we can get through this, so this thing's not too long. So after the composition album, we decided that we wanted to start working on some solo projects. Not that we were having creative differences or anything like that. We just wanted to give it a shot to see how our solo projects would come together. So I started working on The Gray Area, which was my first solo project. Volume was, my brother was part of the recording process on that. About the same time, we started both projects. Mine was done and we didn't press any CDs or anything like that. We just released it later as a free digital release on SoundCloud. I did give out some burnt CDs here and there just to people, you know, just so they could check it out. Volume's project was called The Definition, and we recorded that at his new studio. So we had the home studio, which was kind of both of ours, and then ended up basically turning into my studio, which has always been in wherever house I lived in. And then Volume Studio, he rented a office building in Sorrento Valley. We went to Guitar Center. He spent a bunch of money. We got the latest and greatest in equipment, from microphones to software to you name it. Built that studio. His goal was to record clients there, make it a business, and at the same time we wanted to use that studio as our main base to record our next project. And that next project was another joint project called The Originals. That also, great album, that also was a free digital release on SoundCloud. We never got around to pressing that as well. But his Definition project was actually our first digital release with a distributor, and we also pressed up physical copies of CDs like we did the composition. Around this time, we made a little bit of a switch in equipment. You know, we went from, I covered the Beat Machine, the Roland Beat Machine, the Groovebox D2. We covered the Boss SP303 sampler, and then I had got a Yamaha Motif. That was an amazing keyboard, and still is to this day one of the best, most popular keyboards at the time. Keyboard was also a sampler. They were very popular at this time, the Korg Triton, the Yamaha Motif. I also ended up purchasing a MC909, which I still own to this day, which is a really, really dope, another Roland product. It was another Groovebox. And, you know, this thing is massive. Still one of my favorite beat machines to this day. At the time of recording The Originals, The Definition, and kind of the tail end of The Gray Area, we were still using hardware. My brother Volume had a MPC. We had a Yamaha Motif, MC909, so we still had a bunch of hardware. Using Pro Tools, of course. At this time, we started to make the switch to move in from hardware to software. One of the first softwares that I picked up that my brother still hates to this day, but he did use it and used it well, was Reason. Reason was a great program. A lot of people were using it. I actually liked it, but as we got more and more into the software world, you know, we realized how hindering it was. The sampling capability was non-existent, and, you know, how to fly in your own WAV files and how to sample into it was very difficult. You'd have to do a couple of different things to get it into Reason. So it was it was still faster than doing it on hardware, but the software game was kind of new to us. So we used Reason 2.5, Reason 3, Reason 4, Reason 5. So we're still using Pro Tools. Now we're using Reason. The hardware had kind of gone by the wayside for us. Not that we got rid of most of our hardware, but we ended up keeping most of it. As we started to get into the software world, we had that studio for many years. It actually got moved a couple of different times. My brother moving into different buildings here and there. You know, we'd go there, build walls, this and that. It was a good time, and some of my fondest memories were at that studio, meeting tons and tons of different artists, just from, you know, some big artists and some, you know, no-namer artists, and we just always had a good time there, man. That was a great time of our lives.
It's so deceiving, the fakest smile trying to hide the grieving, believing there's a reason for the treatment I'm receiving. Now there's children I'm conceiving, my baby mama leaving.
So as my little brother and I are getting older, you know, we're no longer living with each other. You know, we're grown men now. You know, we've got our significant others that we're living with. We're getting together to record here and there. But it's tough, you know, life gets in the way sometimes. You know, you got, you know, full-time job, you got friends and family, you've got girlfriends, you've got bills, you know, got everything that life can throw at you, right? And started to slow down on the recording together, but Volume always had clients, you know, that he would work with here and there. And I had a home studio, that I was constantly working in. So after the solo projects and the originals, I had really wanted to start working on a compilation project. Basically, I was wanting to step back from the microphone and just produce. And that was a goal and a dream of mine. I wanted to call it School of the Blind. And that record, not only did I learn a lot, it was a lot of fun. So I got a bunch of people that I was either friends with or that I respected as artists, and recorded this album. And it came out really dope. It was a hard copy, physicals, and a digital release. It was actually my first digital release through a distributor. And that took off pretty well. I mean, I, you know, made some money off selling the physicals, and it was, you know, available to, you know, 40 different sites worldwide. Around the time of recording School of the Blind, I made a major switch to the audio nerds out there. Me and my little bro were Apple. We were Macintosh, you know, that was the only computers that we were using at the time, from laptops to the Mac Pros to the first eMac, you know, it was all Apple. And I was getting a little tired of, you know, we had these plugins, these programs, and a lot of times when you would upgrade, things weren't compatible, and Mac was starting to piss me off a little bit. Talking to a homie of mine that's way into computers and taught me a bunch about computers, my homie Nick, he had an old Dell piece of crap PC, you know, and I asked him if he'd sell it to me, you know, and I might have given him $50 for it. Nick, I don't even know if I paid you for it, but it was just an old piece of crap Dell, you know, and it might have had 8 gigs of RAM in it, something like that. And it was running Windows XP at the time, you know. Around this time, I think Vista was out, maybe Windows 7 had just come out, because this is a while back. So I wanted to experiment with FL Studio. At the time, I'm still using Reason. I think it was Reason 5. I had heard good and bad things about FL Studio, but I had done some studying, and I said, you know what, this program looks pretty dope. You know, I would always, you know, talk shit about it because you could kind of mouse click your way to a beat. And I'm like, man, that's not producing. But the more and more I learned about it, I'm like, you know what, this is a really dope DAW. So I got that old piece of crap Dell, which I still own to this day. And that is what this last album that I'm promoting, 1110, that's what it was recorded and mixed on, is that old Dell. I'd have a big learning curve to go from Apple to PC, and not only from Apple, Reason, now I'm going from PC to FL Studio. So School of the Blind was actually about half and half. It was half produced on Reason and half produced on FL Studio. It took a while to learn that program. It's a way different DAW. If you're used to using Pro Tools, used to using Reason, or used to using Logic or whatever, FL Studio is a really different layout. So it took my brain a little while to get it, but as soon as I got on to the basics of FL Studio, it blew my mind. You know, the sampling capability is what I'd been looking for. Instead of flying things into Pro Tools or recording records into Pro Tools or whatever, and then having to break that down and make that into a Rex file or make that into a WAV file, then bring it into Reason. And then if that was wrong, then you had to go back and do it again. Major pain in the ass. FL Studio, you sample right into one of the samplers that are amazing, chop it up, loop it up, whatever the hell you want to do, stretch it, put it in the thing, put your drums on it, put your instruments on it, done. It was a game changer to me. The whole reason I stayed on Windows XP is because of the plugins that I had at this time. I won't mention if they were bought, paid for, or pirated, but they were only worked on Windows XP. So I got a version of Pro Tools that we had on a disc, you know, a legal version of Pro Tools, and I loaded it up with Reason and FL Studio, and I created School the Blind album with many different artists on it, friends and people that I respected.
Hours feel like days, living life so bliss. Mimic holy water flow, watch me baptize this. What will God decide of thee? $1 million poker type.
Shortly after working on and releasing School of the Blind, I wanted to start working on another solo project. I was going to call it Through Blind Eyes. And Through Blind Eyes was starting to have less and less Reason beats and more FL Studio beats. And still, now I'm full-blown PC. I've got a PC Windows laptop. I've got the old PC Dell, which is still under my desk to this day. And then I bought another Dell, used of course, and cloned that computer. Just in case this old pile of shit broke down, I would have one exactly like it. So now I'm living in the world of PC, Windows XP, and Pro Tools 7.3 or Pro Tools 7. So I stayed that way. Now we're at FL Studio 21, we're at Windows 11, and Pro Tools is, who knows what version Pro Tools is on now. I think it stopped at Pro Tools 12, something like that, and then went to the subscription-based Pro Tools. That was probably the craziest thing. If I'd told people, my fellow audio nerds out there, if I told people what I was running and why I was running it, it would make sense to them. But if I told them what I was running without explaining it, it wouldn't make any sense. They'd be like, what the hell is this guy doing on such an old computer running Windows XP? Some kids nowadays don't even know what the hell Windows XP is. So I'm working on Through Blind Eyes. I got Volume, my little bro, on a couple of songs. Got the homie Agile, so all SMC members were on this album, but mostly me. This was my album to define who I was at this time. Going through life, drinking a little too much at this time, and it's starting to, drinking and partying and it's starting to screw my life up. But we got this record done. It came out amazing. We also, at this time, I started to press my own CDs with a lot of help from my homie Rob and the homie Nick, a couple of dudes that are a little younger than me that really were there to help me out. We got the album covers designed, and I bought a duplicator and a big old printer, and we printed and put all these CDs together by hand, man. Hundreds and hundreds of CDs that we pressed up. Just because I wanted to do everything myself. You know, I was tired of sending, you know, CDs out to get pressed, and, you know, it was expensive at the time, and I just didn't have that much money. So we started to press our own CDs. And it was also released digitally through a distributor as well. That was, at the time, that was one of the dopest projects that I had ever done. Shortly after releasing that record, I found out that I was going to have a baby with my beautiful fiance. At the time, I was drinking myself into a death hole, you know, and I gave all that up for my kids. I gave all that up for my loved ones, my family, my little brother. I gave it up for everybody. I did it for myself, but I gave it up for everybody. Since releasing Through Blind Eyes, I had two beautiful children, Melody and Curtis Jr. We call him Juju. And I'm so thankful that I not only had family to back me up, but I had music also to save my life. Not only did quitting drinking help my personal life, it also helped my entire production and writing style. The way I used to write and rap completely changed. It's hard to explain, but I'm just a better MC. I'm a better producer. I'm a better mixer. I went back into learning mode instead of thinking I knew it all. So very humbling over the last few years. Present day, I am still using FL Studio. I think it's an amazing program, which is kind of weird because you think, you know, I'm an OG in the game now when it comes to this music thing. I've been doing it for a very long time with a lot of knowledge, and usually FL Studio is the DAW that kids will start their music career with. Maybe it was the timing of when it was popular and me coming from hardware and beat machines and me eventually getting into FL Studio that makes it sound so backwards. Like FL Studio is usually where people start when they're coming into the music world, and I ended up using at the end of my career here. Not to say that this is the end of my career, but you know, I'm older now, and that's the DAW that I'm stuck on music-wise. I've been using FL Studio for years now. Pro Tools, I used Pro Tools for 20 years. Recently, I have started to use Studio One, made by Presonus. I think it's an amazing program. I don't know if it's ever going to replace Pro Tools for me, but because of Pro Tools subscription and, you know, some of their licensing and stuff like that, I'll never ever talk bad about Pro Tools. I love Pro Tools, but there is something about Studio One that really caught my eye, and there's a lot of editing tricks and stuff like that that only the audio nerds like me would understand. Some things that Pro Tools doesn't have. So I've just keep expanding my knowledge and what I'm using to make music. So right now, FL Studio, Studio One, Pro Tools as well, records, beat machines, brand new computer, brand new, everything's brand new. I have gone from Windows XP, Pro Tools 7 to everything being 100% upgraded, and the fastest computer money can buy, and the fastest this and the best that, and you know, even got another mic. Everything's brand new. So 1110 is the album that I'm promoting and putting out there. 1110 is the date that I got sober. November 10th, 2018. I have been sober for 5 years from alcohol. Very proud of that. And will be for the rest of my life, because now with fiance and 2 beautiful children, my life, it couldn't get better than this. I'm a very humble and happy dude. And I can't wait to continue the run. I had so much fun doing this 1110 album that I'm going to continue the same exact formula that I used on 1110. I'm going to make 1110 Volume 2 and 1110 Volume 3. That is how far I've planned it out. We'll see what comes after that. So, in conclusion to all this, I just want to thank everybody that stuck in for the entire video to learn a little bit about myself and my little brother and SMC Records. We will continue to make music. And yes, my little bro he is featured on this new album of mine. It will be coming out soon. We have a video, and now we have a mini documentary. Just want to thank everybody out there for their time. 1110, Blind One, SMC Records, coming to you soon. Peace.
Motivation wasn't there, now I'm seeing it so clear. Old religious figures, hidden beauty in the stained glass. Vicious killers, immortal legends in the same class. A wounded image, how much longer will the pain last? The poison's in us, deadly limits what the veins pass. Not a gimmick, flying high, lead to plane crash. An epidemic, haunting pictures in my brain stash. So metaphoric, wage a war to let the hand pour. Wake up on the floor, never certain what you're reaching for. Sky's the limit, bouncing back when I hit the wall. Rewards a critic, judging jealous when I trip and fall. The analytics show and prove that I can take it all. The grim reaper knocking and I refuse to be at his beck and call. A musty Bible maintains its power every page like dusty vinyl. Sounds so distinctive in this stage. Alcoholic idol.